Hello and welcome. I'm Jan Hart. Most people I'm chatting to at the moment are talking about the pandemic and telling me about how less well they feel and more depleted they're feeling the longer that it continues. And it also seems to me that the virus of fear that's prevalent out there at the moment in media, in social media, and even in our own conversations is as bad as the pandemic itself. So I'm here today to remind us all about our psychological immunity, our resilience. And my favourite metaphor about resilience comes from a book called Made to Bounce. And in that book, the author talks about a Christmas ornament, an orange, and a rubber ball. Now, Christmas ornaments are beautiful, but they're fragile. And if you celebrate Christmas, you probably know that every year when you go to take out the decorations, there's a few less of them there because they tend to get shattered. So they look beautiful, they look substantial, but they're mostly made of glass and they can be easily broken. And this is how a lot of people understand themselves and life and their own well being. Beautiful, but fragile. It's like a big, beautiful Christmas ornament. All's going well until something happens and it breaks. So that's one way. And another way to understand life is to look at it like an orange. Now, an orange has a tough skin. You can throw it on the ground, you can hurl it on the wall, against the wall repeatedly, and it won't necessarily look like anything has happened to the orange on the outside, but inside it's going to be bruised. And a lot of us can feel that way at various times in our life. And people ask us how we're doing, and we say, I'm doing fine. I say, really, how are you? I'm fine. How's work? Fine. How's the project? Fine. How's the problem you were working on? Well, that's fine too. Yeah, fine, fine, fine. But inside, we don't always feel fine. Inside, we can feel bruised, like the orange. And that's how a lot of us can see ourselves. We're maintaining a good facade, we're putting up a good front, but inside, we're not feeling so good. And in fact, sometimes we can start to feel rotten. And then we have a rubber ball. Now, rubber balls are made to bounce, and there's no difference in the rubber ball on its thousandth bounce than on its first bounce. The rubber ball is no less of itself or of less value no matter how many times it bounces. You can beat it with the stick, you can throw it around the room, you can play hurling with it, you can do whatever you want, and it's still as good as new. And something that I saw on my own journey was that it's possible for resilience to be about something other than growing a thick skin. It's about bouncing because rubber balls just bounce up and down all day long. And a rubber ball doesn't have to be afraid of bouncing or falling because every time it falls and hits the floor, it just bounces right back up again. And that's how we're made as humans too. We're made to bounce. And we're no less on our thousandth bounce than we are on our first either. So I went through difficult times at a young age when I was less capable and had less of a perspective, I guess, on what was going on. And as I got older, I learned to cope and to deal with things and to grow a tougher skin. I worked really hard on myself to toughen up so that the bruises wouldn't show. And when I was first exposed to this understanding, for the first time, I realized that we're all sitting in the middle of mental health and well being. We just don't know it. Nobody told us. And then I realized that we're not fragile like Christmas ornaments, and we're not a bruised orange in need of a thicker skin. What I saw is we're always Christmas ornaments, good as new. We're always like an orange, freshly picked off the tree. And we're always like a rubber ball, just off the shelf. And I also saw that resilience isn't just about bouncing back and getting through things and coming out the other side in one piece or having a thicker skin. It's in seeing that we're not broken, that we're not fragile, that we don't have to be careful with ourselves and that we're not going to break. We can throw ourselves against a psychological wall a million times and we're just as good as new every single time. And it's not that some rubber balls are tougher than others. We're all made in the same way. Now that was life-changing for me because when I saw that there was nothing to be scared of. If I'm not so fragile and breakable, then why would I be afraid? And you might be sitting there thinking, but what if I fall? You'll bounce back. And what if you break? You can't. You're unbreakable. But what if I feel broken? Well, then you're just going to feel broken until you remember that you're not. Because we all have psychological immunity and we all come back to balance and well-being. Now, there's also an awful lot of talk at the moment about the rollout of vaccines. And this is so that we can go wherever we want without being afraid. But this understanding also does the same thing for us. Because when we have this understanding, it lets us walk into situations that look difficult. And it lets us walk into situations that look like trouble instead of running away all the time. Because when we see that nothing that's real in us can ever be damaged, that whatever we go through, we will bounce back as good as new. We start to see this in ourselves more and more. And when we do, we also start to see it in other people. And we see that they're not broken either, and that we don't need to be fixing them all the time. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. We're not broken. In fact, you're not even breakable. And neither is anybody else. But appearances can be deceiving. I actually think as human beings that our value is enhanced by what we go through. That we're worth more because of the difficulties that we face and go through. Why? Because it wakes up our compassion. And it wakes up a deeper place inside of us. It wakes up our love and our empathy for other people. And if there's one thing that this world needs right now, it's more love and compassion and empathy for each other. Now, if you're not feeling your resilience today, remember, this conversation is about hope. And hope is about remembering that the way you feel now is not permanent. It will change. So that's it for today, folks. Stay open and curious, have fun exploring, and see you next time. Till then, be well.